Kill your own profitable business. The decisions Reed Hastings of Netflix made at two moments on the brink. The leader who set fire to his own castle. Many companies sink because they cannot let go of a business that is still making money. Blockbuster, once the king of its industry, and Kodak were both like that. But there was a leader who tried, while still at the peak of success, to make his single biggest breadwinner a thing of the past with his own hands. He is Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix. The Netflix he led had succeeded as a company that rented out DVDs by mail. At the very moment that business was thriving, he steered the company towards streaming, a new business that could cannibalize his own DVD operation. And along the way, he also made a decision that can only be called a massive failure. What makes Hastings' story fascinating is that it is not a tale of flawless success. It is packed with the raw reality of decision-making, the courage of self-disruption, errors of judgment, and a comeback from failure. The founding years when Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. Netflix was born in 1997. Hastings and his co-founder Mark Randolph launched a company that rented DVDs by mail. A flat monthly fee, unlimited rentals, no due dates, and no late fees. It was a model that overturned the common sense of the video rental stores of the time. Then in 2000, while still a small venture, Netflix approached the industry giant Blockbuster and offered, "Please buy our company for $50 million. The result was a flat rejection. Blockbuster regarded Netflix as a niche business with no future. Years later, Randolph recalled that moment saying, "They laughed us out of the room." To a king with thousands of stores and an overwhelming brand, a mail-order DVD venture was beneath notice. But this judgment would later be remembered as one of the worst missed opportunities in history. About 10 years later, Blockbuster went bankrupt, while Netflix climbed to become a company tens, even hundreds of times larger. The gap between the one who grew complacent with today's advantage and the one who bet on the next wave is on full display here. The decision to make a thriving DVD business the past by his own hand. Hastings' true greatness was not in defeating Blockbuster. It was in going after his own business model to destroy it after he had become the winner. In January 2007, Netflix launched Watch Now, its streaming service. It was a new feature that let you play movies and shows right then on your computer. At that time, the bandwidth and the catalog were still poor, and the pillar of revenue was firmly the thriving DVD by mail business. Here, most managers would think, DVDs are making this much money, so there's no need to rush a bet on streaming. But Hastings chose the opposite. He saw that the future of video lay not in mailing physical media, but in internet delivery. If so, the only option was to make his own DVD business obsolete himself, before another company did it to him. The very fact that the company's name was Net, plus Flick spoke to a vision held from the very beginning. To push his largest source of revenue into the past with his own hands, this was a painful decision to move into the future, even at the temporary cost of profit. He went head-on against the iron rule of management that the more successful a business is, the harder it is to decide to abandon it. The great failure, the 23-day nightmare called Quickster. However, Hastings is not a genius with a magic touch. The proof of that is the Quickster uproar of 2011. Rushing the shift to streaming, Netflix spun off its DVD business at this time, announcing that it would split it into a separate brand and a separate site called Quickster. At the same time, it charged separately for DVD and streaming, effectively raising prices. Users reacted far more fiercely than management had imagined. A service that had worked under a single account was divided in two, greatly harming convenience. Taken as a de facto price hike, customers' anger exploded. According to reports, Netflix lost about 800,000 subscribers and its stock price crashed about 77% over a few months. What was intended as a move toward the future was, to customers, nothing but a change for the worse. Even if the direction of a strategy is correct, mishandling its execution and communication can be fatal. Hastings himself demonstrated this bitter reality firsthand. "I messed up," the strength of a leader who bows his head in public. It is precisely Hastings' actions from here that reveal his essence as a manager. He withdrew Quickster in just about 23 days and merged DVD and streaming back into a single Netflix. And to his users, He publicly issued an apology that frankly admitted his fault. "I messed up. In hindsight, I slid into arrogance based upon past success." What is striking is that he did not blame the market or the customers for the failure, but named his own arrogance as the cause. To admit that the very experience of success had clouded his judgment is the hardest confession for a leader to make. He quickly acknowledged the failure and withdrew without clinging to it, the speed of cutting his losses. Rather than making excuses, he confronted the root cause of his own conceit. That sincerity, in the long run, led to the recovery of customer trust. Rather than protecting his pride and continuing down the wrong road, turning back while accepting the shame is far stronger. Ironically, the failure of Quickster became an opportunity to show the world his power to admit a mistake. The biggest bet in history, $100 million on original production. Having recovered from the brink, Netflix next made an even bigger bet: the decision to create content itself. The political drama House of Cards, which began streaming on February 1st, 2013. Netflix poured about $100 million into this work for 2 seasons and 26 episodes in total. What's more, it was an unusual contract that committed to producing 2 full seasons before even a pilot had been shot. The one who strongly pushed this massive investment was the head of content, Ted Sarandos. According to reports, Hastings himself was initially cautious about this huge contract and is said to have had reservations. Even so, he trusted the data and the conviction on the ground and gave the green light. As a result, House of Cards became a social phenomenon and a turning point that transformed Netflix from a distribution company into a creator. Just as The Sopranos once changed HBO, this single work is credited with laying the foundation for Netflix's explosive growth. What's interesting is that this was not Hastings' sole decision. Setting aside his own caution and betting on the conviction of a trusted subordinate, this was a boldness accompanied by humility, made possible precisely because he was a manager who had keenly felt his own arrogance through Quickster. Lessons for today's managers. What can we learn from the decisions of Reed Hastings? Move on to the next thing yourself while your core business is thriving. He bet on streaming while DVDs were still profitable. Today's advantage will someday inevitably become a shackle on the future. Even a correct strategy can be fatal if you get the execution wrong. The direction of Quickster was right, but a lack of care for customers cost 800,000 of them. Strategy and execution and communication are one set. Admit failure quickly and turn back quickly. The withdrawal in 23 days and the apology of "I messed up." The speed of cutting losses and the sincerity of admitting fault save trust. Have a boldness accompanied by humility. Setting aside his own caution, he bet $100 million on the conviction of his subordinates. There is a courage that only those who know the price of arrogance can possess. What is the thriving DVD business that you cannot let go of right now? And is your past success clouding your judgment? Hastings' decisions thrust upon us the pitfall of arrogance that creeps up especially on the winners. Thank you for watching.